Yeah, Karen Chorney, can I call you after Shabbat and ask you the fingering on the Dorian scales?
Yeah, on a piano? On piano I can do, yeah. Okay. That's easy.
Oh my goodness. How come I'm so slow learning this stuff?
Because our brains lose plasticity with age. I'm not calling you old, I'm just saying. They do.
You're not getting older, you're getting less young.
I bet we're getting better.
It is hard.
Say, I actually noticed this thing as I was Bulechti Badera. You know, that's what you're supposed to study, right?
Well, yes. I just want to say, I think it's a merism, but okay.
A merism?
Yeah.
Is it like something to do with carrots?
No. No, I think Ushofecha Kumecha V'lechtecha B'derech is just like all the time. You're supposed to be doing it all the time. I don't think, but the rabbis would have agreed. The ancient rabbis would have agreed with you that it was specific. Of course, while you're walking on the way, Marshall.
Yes.
But yes, I think it was. I think it was just
Los Angeles sidewalks, right?
no. Look where you're going.
Every crack. That's right.
Every crack.
And I have the bruises to prove it.
That's right. I have a scar on my elbow.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, we're going to start. Good afternoon to those who are joining us online. Hi, Joe. Hi, Gary. Hi, Tyval. We are going to start with a slow Ashrei on page 214. And in the Lev Shalem, and we will begin with our Shabbat Mincha service. And hopefully, by the time we get to Torah reading, we'll have a nice minyan in the room also. Start on page 214. Asher Yoshevi Veitecha Od Yalilucha Sela Hashem Shakacha Lo Asher Am Shadonai Elohav Tila LeDavid Armiucha Eloi HaMelech Baruch Shehilat Adonai Daber Pi Vivarech Basar Shem Kodsho Leolam Vaed Vanachnu Nivarech Yami Etavi Adolam Hallelujah Litzi Hongo Elu Shavei Feshav Yaakov Neum Adonai Vanizo Beriti V'yata Kadosh Yoshev Tilat Yisrael V'karazel Zev Yamar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melech Haaretz Kevodo Complete V'tisahini Ruach V'shma Charai Korash Gadol Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimekomo Adonai Imloch Leolam Vaed. ויפתחו בך יודעי שמך, כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני. אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. You're darn close, yeah. Hang on. Don't go anywhere, my friends online. I'm just going to take a peek because we're really, really close here to a minyan. So we're just going to see because then we can take our Torah out of the ark. So hold tight. Just take a peek out front because I bet you got a couple of them. Sure. I told you your friends are coming. We're in good shape.
Oh, we're so good at horseshoe.
We don't quite have our minion, but there's a good chance that somebody might come. And we have another 2 minutes before we wouldn't, we're too late for Mincha. So I'm gonna lead us in a niggin for the afternoon, a little tune. And if nobody walks in by the end of the nigun, so then we'll have Marshall chant for us out of an Eitz Chaim so that we can move on and actually get Mincha in time. But maybe it'll be a magical nigun. We'll find out. Okay. 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 But we can do, the good news is, according to the practices of our community right now, we can both do an El Male and Mari with the number of people we have on Zoom. So neither of those things are in danger, but I would really like to, I'm actually answering your question at length to drag this out. So, okay, great.
Question,
Yeah.
because bringing out, can you bring out the Sefer Torah if we have 8, if we only have 8?
No, we would do the Male without a Torah, as we did on Zoom during the pandemic. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, so a little nigun. No magic nigun. Okay, we tried though. We did try. And then we got a nigun at the very least. Okay, so Marshall, we'll have you do La Asok. We're going to have Marshall do La Asok V'divrei Torah and read for us from the Chumash. I'll ask you to come up so we can hear from Parshat Vayetze. And then we'll learn it as well. And hopefully by the time we finish hearing from you, chanting from up here, then we'll be able to do our Mincha Amidah. We're on page 166 if you're following along in the Chumash, or you might just listen to Marshall chanting. We're on chapter 28? Chapter 28, verse 10.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu v'tzitav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And I'll break down the reading with the normal 3 aliyot, which we do at Shabbat Mincha. Vayetze Yaakov miBeersheva vayelech harana, vayivka b'makom vayalen sham kiva hashemesh, vayikach me'avnei hamakom vayasa mira'ashotav, vayishka b'makom hahu vayachalom, v'hinei sulam mutzav arza, v'rosho magia hashamayma, V'nei malachei Elohim olim v'yoredim boho. That which would be the second aliyah. V'nei Adonai nitzav alav vayomar Ani Adonai Elohei Avraham Avicha Velohei Yitzchak haaretz Asher ata shochev aleha Lecha etnena ulzarecha Ve'haya zaracha ka'afar haaretz ufaratzta Yama v'kedma v'tzafona v'negba V'nivrechu v'cha kol mishpechot ha'adama uv'zarecha V'hinei anochi imach Ushmarticha b'chol asher telech V'hashivoticha el ha'adama hazot Ki lo ezovecha ad asher im asiti Et asher dibarti lach Vayikatz Yaakov mishnato Vayomer Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh ve'anochi lo yadati Vayira vayomar manora hamakom hazeh ein zeh Ki im beit Elohim v'zeh sha'ar hashamayim. And that which would be the third aliyah. Vayashkem Yaakov baboker Vayikach et ha'even asher sam mirashotav Vayasem ota matzeva Vayitzok shemen al rosha Vayikra et shem hamakom hahu beit el ve'ulam Luz shem ha'ir larishona Vayidar Yaakov neder lemor imiye Elohim imadi Ushmarani baderech hazeh asher anochi holech v'natan li lechem lechol uveged lilbosh v'shati v'shalom el beit avi v'haya Adonai li l'Elohim v'ha'even hazot asher tasamti matzeva yeh beit Elohim v'chol asher titen li aser asrenu lach.
Now that we've read from Parshat Vayetze, we can pause before we move into the whispered private Amidah, and we can do El Male Rachamim, as somebody was asking before. No, we don't take out the Torah scroll because we don't have a minyan here in person, but El Male is permitted. Some of you, the easiest case example that I can give you is that I'm sure plenty of you have been at small burials, and of course El Male Rachamim is regularly said there, the Jewish memorial prayer. So we are able to say that without a minyan present. I know we have at least one to be said in the room, so Joel, please come forward. I have the El Male text here. Who's this for? My mother. Your mother, okay. Are you going to do it or am I going to do it? I'll do it. Okay, that's beautiful. So here. Right here. Second paragraphs. And let's make sure that they can hear you.
El Male Rachamim shochen b'amromim Hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina B'malot kedoshim u'torim v'zara harakim mazhirim V'nishmat Nechama Rezel bat Kedi shalcha le'olama B'gan Eden tehem menuchata Ana bal harachamim asireh b'seter knatecha le'olamim Utzror b'torah chaim v'nishmata Adonai hu nachlata v'tanuach b'shalom amishkava v'nomar Amen.
Amen. And is there a particular memory of your mom that's coming to mind this yard site?
No, my mom was a very enthusiastic Scrabble player, a very enthusiastic piano player and singer, and she often, later on in her life, served as a chazan, both in Israel and in the United States, and as a performer. And she loved to write plays in which she took popular music from Broadway shows but turned it into a Jewish play. For example, a play for Purim, which used all sorts of Broadway songs with the original melodies and my mother's new words. And one time, her father, my grandfather, came to a performance of a Purim play that she had written with Broadway tunes. And my favorite memory is that my grandfather said to her, "Roz, the words were very clever, but the music was beautiful. And my mother said to her father, Papa, I didn't write the music. He said, shh, who has to know? So that's
Oh,
a favorite memory.
beautiful. Yehi zichra baruch. It was
Thank
a
you.
privilege to briefly have known her and met her. She was a real
Yes.
light and a real delight to those who know her. And I hope her memories continue to light you up when you recall them.
They do. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room who has an El Malei Rachamim to be said for a yard site that's being recalled this week? Is there anybody on Zoom, Tybal or any of the back racks or Joe? No? Okay. All right. So what we'll do is, since we don't quite have a minion in the room, we'll go and we'll move into our whispered private Amidah for Mincha for the Shabbat afternoon service. You can find it on page 223 in Lev Shalem or wherever Shabbat Mincha Amidah is in the Siddur you may have at home. Again, page 223, the Amidah is recited privately and in a whisper. If you haven't yet completed your own private Amidah, please continue at your own pace. Aleinu is on 231. Aleinu l'shapech la'adon hakol, l'tegedu la'v'yisrael. Hakatuv Tortech Adonai Himloch Le'olam Va'ed V'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech Kol Haaretz V'yom Hahu Yihi Adonai Echad U'shmo Echad. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 232. Yit Gadal V'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah V'yalma Divrach Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei V'chayechon V'yomechon V'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala U'visman Kari V'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabam Varach Le'olam Olamei Omaya Yiparach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yichamam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmi Tekudesha Berichu Leila Minkol Birchata V'shirata Shishbachata V'nechamata Amiram Be'oma V'imru Amen. Yehi Shema Rabbamin Shemaya Vayim Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Yaseh shalom b'imramav u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. I wish Yashar Koach to Marshall for reading for us Vayetze and for learning Vayetze for us. And we will continue now with a little bit of nourishment, which means grab a little bite for yourself either from here or from home. And we'll continue with the learning at 4:30. We'll give ourselves a little bit of a break so we can have some food. And then we'll continue learning from Parshat Vayetze. If you are here in the room, I have source sheets for you, but I would also recommend grabbing a Chumash if you don't yet have one. And if you're at home, please grab either a Tanakh, a Hebrew Bible, an Eitz Chaim. We're going to be doing some learning from the Parsha from this coming week, from Vayetze together. Realize that the source sheet didn't go out to people. It will have gone out after Shabbat, so you can take a look at it afterwards. You're right there? Yep.
Rabbi Cantor,
Yes.
by chance, is it on Safaria? If we search for it, will we find it on Safaria?
I don't know because I don't know if it was shared publicly on Safari. I'm not sure if I shared it publicly. You can certainly check my profile on Safaria because it's already no longer Shabbat where you are. So you can check on Safaria for it, but it will be there on the podcast after Shabbat. And in any case, I'll guide you through the whole thing through the Chumash. So I'll see you in about 12 minutes or so for some learning. It's shrinkflation.
Well, the weather difference too. The weather wasn't bad. What am I gonna, I'm gonna tell them what to wear? I don't think that's gonna work. But you did tell them, would it make any difference? No, it would not.
Probably 30 minutes of learning.
Just a little inshore, right?
Come back on Monday, there'll be a encore.
It is. I love how all the stoves are combined into one stove.
Right, because of how when we do Havdalah, right, exactly. So like, it's a, my uncle would call it a word problem, like a math problem. Exactly, it's a word problem. It's exactly right. Exactly right. It's a word problem.
How many years has it been now since your mother died? 8 years. I've only ever heard your father. Yes, thank you. What a pair they were. They were great.
Shabbat's just go so short
Gave
these
me
days.
my first visit.
Yeah,
I
you
prefer-
notice
I
with
prefer
those,
the long
with
Shabbat.
those signs, it ends short.
Right, I know, but
Yeah, Saturday night is
She
so
gave our
quiet.
son.
I like when it was
Oh.
I like when it was more time on Friday to like get ready and
Yeah,
stuff.
You
that's
don't know
true.
the
So
story.
Saturday night, I know I'm not gonna get anything done.
No.
This
So
would not
I
be
like
one
to
I
just
would
like
normally
luxury
share
in the
on
Shabbat
memory of my mother, but
atmosphere, and now I feel like I have to get something done tonight. You
He's in first grade.
During the pandemic, I lived outside and turned out
It's
to be the
springtime.
only supporter.
I get a call from the school.
And so,
From his
I
teacher.
go there, and
David
there's an
is
office,
being
basically, the home office.
suspended.
So I buy books,
And
I said, yeah.
Laura
What's the
Gila.
book I wanna read?
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like
yeah.
five,
Five
I
books.
haven't
So
read.
they've only been
So that's
in
my
school
Saturday night.
Since,
I haven't gone to a
September.
movie in 3 years, I
He
refuse to
says,
go. Well,
this
you're,
is
this is.
so sorry to tell you this. David has been.
If you're outside, you're okay.
We have a zero
It's
tolerance
enclosed
policy
space. You know,
of bad
So,
language.
this is okay,
And
you know.
I had
and,
never
the
heard this
Eco
before from
services is
David,
500 people.
but
so
today
I
we
sit
were
by the
playing
door.
Wits for Bingo.
What do you think there is? Cost benefit of a movie versus movie.
I called out
I
the
watch
summer
Death Rate
box,
every day.
and he didn't
You
have
watch
one either.
Death rate, the New York Times says how many people die.
And I
every
said,
day. Well, 25%
David,
the last.
because he's David and he
Well,
always
below
is so
300.
sweetly spoken,
Used to be 3,000.
I gave him a warning.
If I tell
I'm
people
supposed to
plane
just,
crash.
that's it.
it's what?
And he said, I'm sorry, Maureen, I will do that again.
Just to give you
So-
a little
No,
heads up.
yeah.
My name's
Next
Irv, by the
time
way.
I
yeah.
down,
Yeah. So,
and
you know,
I
that's
say
kind of
to
like-
Jessica,
When it goes down to 100, then I won't move.
I have no choice, Mrs. Grossman, because that's the school. rule. So I go to pick him up and I remind him how he can't use.
Yeah, I am.
And I'm thinking because Joe and I really work very hard. not to serve everybody. And then all of a sudden you're gone with us, there's a reason for it. We had had a visitor who had been driving him for carpool both ways. And that person had a different style of language. And oh my goodness. Having 2 weeks
That way went
of
down.
being chauffeured around by that grandmother, shake her fist. And when she'd get cut off, was a third of our mistake.
I don't see this. Yeah.
But we just didn't go on the floor.
I was using
Very,
that.
very salute.
We missed so much.
I don't
But she
think
was bad.
God would have her fault. She was defending
was
David.
Right,
Yeah,
my mom's horrified, I think your mom, I think
She was in
would have been
need.
very proud.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Your mother would have. I would have.
Maybe one day we'll see the other side of it. I don't know.
yeah,
But he didn't
right
go
away.
to the Moxie factory that year, because that was.
I'm very rarely good at movies. So I hadn't gone, I think I saw one movie before going to the earlier, like when, there was that summer, or like in 2021,
Yeah, yeah.
again, like in the summer, you think it's like.
Yeah,
Fran.
So I saw,
When my daughter
I
Rachel
saw it
was
in
in
the
second
Heights that
grade,
summer.
Oh, I saw the movie on the plane.
We saw it
She
there.
loved
Yeah,
it.
very
started
I
to
was gonna
spit
make the,
in class.
tribute video. Go to the farmer because you
So-
have a huge table.
Oh.
So I didn't farmer come in and wanted to.
Kind of gets a call. Why's your daughter spitting in
I
class?
think of everything, but I don't do
But
it.
apparently she had been talking with my father-in-law, the things were very close. And whenever someone would talk about death,
Joyous movie.
he would
I love
spit.
it.
Yeah, I love
And the last movie I did see was
So she started spitting in class.
So, well, so that
Little
was
kid,
one
going,
movie
second
that I
grader,
saw
what did she know
when I
about
was in
this?
Israel. I got tickets.
So maybe I should match her up with David.
Everything everywhere all at once or whatever. So I went to be like.
Yael's grandmother and Joel's mom were very close friends. Very close friends.
But they started playing that movie when we were in it. So they started playing that movie and everyone in the theater was confused because everyone had bought tickets for the other movie.
Oh.
They ended up switching it over, but I saw like the first 5 minutes and then so I should watch more of it. But I haven't seen a movie because I've been back to the States for the last 2 months.
I would be going tonight to.
Yeah.
To go.
It used to be a fun thing to do, right?
Should be 10 times 10.
Yeah.
Thursday.
My attorney actually
Oh, yeah,
called
beach
over
on Thursday.
and given me like 3 exercises,
Yeah.
3 Dorian exercises first one, he shows me the fingering. By the time we get to the third one, he's not showing me some fingering. So hopefully I'll be able to figure out.
It's out the door by then. It is not easy. It is not easy. I'm not very good at like fingering on scales and things of that matter, but I can certainly show you.
But you know the song I've Got Rhythm? Is
Mhm.
that Dorian? Da, 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 dum, da, 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 dum. Is that-
It changes into the bridge is totally different. So the bridge is in a completely different scale. Old man trouble, I don't mind him. You won't find him around my door.
Bluesy.
It's pentatonic.
Oh, pentatonic.
Yeah.
Pentatonic, right.
Do, 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 do. Yeah.
I couldn't remember that, 'cause that was months ago. Too many months ago.
Okay. So. Yep. Your turn now. All right. Will you do this? Am I ready to do this?
What? Yeah.
You'll be Mark? Wonderful. We do. Okay, we're going to begin learning on Parshat Vayetze. Now, to set the scene a little bit, what's that? There's an echo? You sure? I think it's just, okay, we're good. So to set the scene a little bit, there is the main character that we moved on. We moved very quickly from patriarch to patriarch or from generation to generation. So there is a very quick transition to the third level of patriarch. We start at Avraham and Sarah, or rather Avram and Sarai. We move quickly to the next generation who are who's the next generation? Yitzchak and his brother. Who's Yitzchak's brother? Who's Yitzchak's brother? Yishmael, thank you. Yitzchak has a brother, his name's Yishmael. They have issues, to say the least, right? And Yitzchak's got some troubles. Also, Yitzchak has a troubled relationship with his father for all sorts of complicated reasons. And who's Yitzchak's partner, who we learned all sorts of things about today? Yitzchak is partnered with, his wife is Rebecca,
Rivka.
Rivka. Okay, very good. And Rivka has a very interesting relationship with God. If you're in the learning with Shir Chadash and Beitenu today, then you learned with our rabbinic intern, Yael, all about our that particular relationship that Rivka had with God. Perhaps it was a very direct prophetical relationship even. I had a wonderful conversation with Norm Green at the end, in which he hypothesized something that I love, which is that perhaps God made a decision after having sent a shliach, shlichim, messengers to Sarah, that God said messengers don't work very well. That didn't work out the way that I wanted it to work. Now I'm going to go directly to Rivka. And what I love about that is I'm saving this now for my Seder table. So nobody, you can steal it for your own Seder table. But so then by the time that we get around to the Seder story, God says, I'm just going myself. At that point, like I'm done sending messengers. So there is quite the the direct kind of prophetical, direct conversation that's going on at that point. Now, what's so interesting is that we are so intertwined in the vertical relationships. And I don't mean quite literally that God is in the heavens, but rather in the philosophical vertical relationship between the human. Shh, please. Shh, please, while we're learning. Shh, please. The vertical relationship between God and the human beings, right? So while the vertical relationship is so deeply talked about and so deeply thought about, we're talking about God calling upon Abraham to go forth from Abraham's native land, right? To go forward and to leave his native land. And we're talking about God calling upon Abraham to sacrifice his son. And we're talking about Rivka speaking with Abraham, rather speaking with God about these two nations who turn out to be rivaling in her womb. We then turn in the story of Jacob and his two wives and his two most prominent pilagshot, these two women who have relationships that are ostensibly childbearing relationships with him, and they become really important horizontal relationships. So we delve into what these human relationships are, and that's what I want to focus on today, which is this deeply human moment that takes place between Jacob and his beloved Rachel, Yaakov and his beloved Rachel. Okay, and it's a moment that is important for us to understand the cultural context of, but rather than delving into the sociology or anthropology of it, we're going to look at it through the lens of the many years of commentators who each understood it from their own cultural perspective, from the lens of their own cultural time and place, and why it was that tears and kisses were the way in which human emotion was exchanged in that time and in that place. So let's get the context of the story. Then let's look at the verse, and then let's look at what was said about that particular verse. So what happens is that Yaakov goes traveling. He has a dream in a place, right? Where is he? We had heard about it from Marshall a little bit. Yaakov leaves Beersheba. He sets out and he puts his head down in this place where it turns out God was, right? And he has this dream, wakes up in the dream, and he winds up still in chapter 28, and he makes this vow. He says, if God's with me, then I'm going to and if I return safely to my father's house, God's also going to be my God. All right. So we're still in that space of patriarch God, matriarch God, like very vertical relationship. But then chapter 29 comes along. Always remember that the chapter markings are Christological. They always remember that not only are they later, we don't divide by chapter, we divide by parshas. Okay, so those chapter divisions, chapter 29, that was not done by a Jewish court. That's done at a completely other time by a completely different theological group. Okay, just always keeping that in the back of our minds. So then, though, I don't think they're wrong. It is a different chapter, right? It is a different kind of chapter of the story. Jacob resumes his journey and he sees a field and he sees some sheep and he starts up a conversation. He says, my friends, where are you from? Vayomer lahem, we're on verse 4. Vayomer lahem Yaakov. Achai ma'inatem, where are you from, my friends? And then we get Vayomru mecharan anachnu. We're from Haran, and that sounds familiar. This is very exciting. Vayomer lahem hayadatam et Lavan ben Nahor. He says, "Oh, do you know?" They're playing Jewish geography. They're so excited. Do you know Lavan, who's the son of Nahor? And what do they say? Vayomru Yadanu. Of course we know him. Oh, Vayomer lahem ha shalom lo. Ha shalom lo. I'm so excited. You know why? Does anyone know the secret behind this? My daughter's name is Ella Ma'ayan. And we named her Ella Ma'ayan for the sake of the song, because it's so fun. We also named her that because of a story from Pirkei Eliezer, in which there is a wonderful story about the idea of a self-replenishing font and a ma'ayan hamikaber alav. So also has like some really nice meaning behind it, but also the song. And then the second verse of the song is Hashalom Lo, okay? And it comes from this scene and this idea of the well. So Hashalom Lo, just say hi to him for, okay, is he well? And they say, yes, he is. And by the way, do you see that? Probably they said, do you see that nice looking girl over there? Do you see that woman over there? Okay, Vayomer Shalom. Vehine Rachel Bito. There's his daughter. Ba'a im hatzon. She's coming with the flock. Vayomer Hein od hayom gadol. Lo eit he'asef hamikne. Hashku hatzon ulchu re'u. It's still too early, too much of that, the bigness of the day to round up the animals. Why don't you give them some water this flock, and take them to pasture? Vayomer lo, nuchal ad asher ye'asfu ha'adarim, v'galalu et ha'evan me'al pi ha'be'er, v'hishkinu hatzon. Yeah, but here's the issue. We can't, because we can't do it until we round up all the flocks. And then we have to roll the stone, this big picture of flat stone. Okay, you may know the scene, you may not know the scene, but can you picture the flat stone? Everyone know the flat stone? It's not like a stone, it's a stone, right? It's flat stone. So you got to push the stone. When they say roll the stone, it's really not a good verb for it. But basically like push the stone off of the mouth of the well. Then we can water the sheep. So then Rachel comes forward with the flock, and then Jacob sees her. Okay, and we're going to skip to line 10. Vayihi ka'asher ra'a Yaakov et Rachel bat Lavan. Then he sees Rachel, the daughter of Lavan, achi imo, the brother of his mother. The etatson Lavan achi imo, and the flock of Lavan achi imo, of Lavan, the brother of his mother. Vayigash Yaakov. Vayagel et ha'evan, he goes forward and rolls off the stone, me'al pi ha'be'er, from the mouth of the well. Vayashk et hatzon Lavan achi imo, and he goes and he waters the flock of his uncle Lavan. Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel vayisa et kolo vayevk. Then Jacob kisses Rachel, and he lifts up, vayisa et kolo, he lifts up his voice, and he wails, vayevk. So a couple of things, one that we are not going to get into. What two verbs here are remarkably similar in those last two verses? What? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Vayashk and Vayishak and Vayashk. Exactly. So the watering verb and he kissed, like from Neshek, are extremely similar verbs. And that is so worth delving into. And maybe next year on this Parsha, that is exactly what I'll get into. And I find those two, it is most certainly not unintentional, right? That's really interesting. Also, what phrase, which we are not going to get into, what phrase gets repeated again and again and again in this passage? Lavan achi imo. Lavan, the brother of his mother, right? His uncle Lavan gets repeated again and again. When he goes to water the flock, it's the flock of Lavan, his mother. It's not Rachel's flock. It's not the flock that Rachel is caring for. It's Lavan achi imo. It's the flock of Lavan achi imo. And so what could that possibly be doing there? Worth going into the idea of like the provenance of that flock, the legacy of his family. There's probably something really important to go into there. We're not going to do that this week. Instead, we are going to talk about the human emotion that emerges in that moment. So let's look at the commentary, okay? We're going to look first at Rashi. Rashi, our 11th, 12th century school of commentary from France and areas thereabouts, says Vayevk. Rashi is hung up on the notion of Vayevk and the word of Vayevk and the crying here. Also, Rashi knows something that we know if we've read the Torah before, which is that Vayevk is a verb that we see a lot from here on out in the Torah. specifically in Bereshit. Can someone name at least one other place where this comes up? In Bereshit, can you picture a moment when you hear Vayevk? Because it sticks out orally since there's that final chaf with the dagesh in it. Jacob weeps when he thinks that Joseph's dead, and then let's just stay on that vector for a second. When else does he weep? Or when else did they weep?
When they found Joseph was alive and there.
Right, yeah, it's at their reunion, if I'm not mistaken. It's in Parshat at the end of Me, Kate, right? It's, nope, beginning of Vayigash. Right, so page 279, Genesis 45, verse 23. He doesn't quite cry when he hears that Joseph is alive, but then he goes down and where is it? See if we can find it. There's a moment of crying. Someone's gonna find it, and you're gonna tell me when you find it. And there's a wonderful moment of weeping. You'll find it. You'll find the weeping, and then you'll wave at me when you find it. Okay? But yes, there's another moment of weeping. There's another moment of weeping as well. It comes from earlier. Oh, Tybal found it. Yes, Tybal.
I didn't find it, and I'm not sure that I remember. Maybe I'm just hoping. But when he realized his brother Esau isn't going to hurt him, does
Exactly.
he weep then?
Yes, that was what I was going to say as well. So when he reunites with Esau, that's what I was about to say. Very, very good. So he's standing across the river. His family's by his side. You remember? So he has stolen the birthright from Esau. There are no spoilers because we read Toldot this morning. So he's stolen the birthright from his brother Esau. And now he's got to reunite with his brother, right? And he's pretty scared that his brother is going to probably attack him because his brother, he's heard, has amassed all these people. He sent a pretty nasty note. Very, very scared about this. They reunite, and out of relief, it seems, right? He falls on his brother's neck and he weeps. I didn't curate all these texts for you, but Rashi is aware, is the whole point, that Vayevk is not a lone verb here. It is an expression of extreme emotion, and it's not a lone expression of romantic emotion. Vayevk seems to be a deep expression of emotional catharsis, right? It's a powerful expression of emotional catharsis. So here's what he says in this moment. He has a lot to say. This is a long-ish Rashi for a moment like this on one word. Lefi shetzafa v'ruach hakodesh she'ena nichnesa imo likvura. Because he intuited or foresaw in the Holy Spirit that he wasn't going to be buried, that she wasn't going to be buried, that she, meaning who? Rachel was not going to be buried with him in the cave in Machpelah. Interesting, right? She's still to this day, there's this conversation about where Kfurat Rachel is, right? It's not in the cave of Machpelah. So first of all, that's all we get from this Rashi in particular on that, and then he moves on to Devar Acher, which we'll talk about for a minute. But picture the moment. This Rashi, for which there is, he's pulling from a Genesis Rabbah. Genesis Rabbah is an ancient collection of Midrash. So like many other Rashis, he didn't invent this. Okay, it's coming from 10 centuries earlier from a collection of Midrashim. He's pulling a Midrash that says, in that moment, he had a flash. And what was that flash? What did that flash contain? He foretold, first of all, that she was going to be his wife. He saw his whole life before him, right? Most of the time when we talk about somebody's whole life flashing before their eyes, what do we think? We think death, and do we think about their whole life ahead of them, or do we think about their life behind them? We think about their life that passed, right? And instead, what this Midrash is like an oracle. So this is rare, and I find it very interesting, and I'm curious, I don't know, because I'm not I'm not an expert in Midrash. I don't know if there are other places where we see this, but it's like an oracle-esque moment in which, in the moment of embracing her, he flashes upon their entire life. And of all the things that he foresees, if he can foresee that that she's not going to be buried with him, contained within that sentence is the understanding that he knows that eventually they will successfully have children together. They'll have Joseph together. Joseph will be lost. Joseph will be found. Right? All of this, he must understand all of these things. Joseph becomes a dreamer who foretells things because Jacob is the kind of person who can hug a person and see their whole life up to the point that his wife will not be buried with him. He sees all of this. But the thing that sticks with him in that moment that causes him to weep is, has anyone seen Hamilton? Do you know about the gasp at the end? There is a gasp. Hamilton's wife, Eliza, at the very, very end, there's a gasp, and it's an unexplained gasp. And this is exactly what I thought about at that moment, right? It's a completely unexplained gasp in the notes. She gasps at the last moment, and the curtain falls. And the question is, because there's this moment where they're all together, like, what is she gasping about? And Lin-Manuel Miranda has been asked about it, the actress who did not win. She's the one who was nominated but didn't win the Tony. I wept. I may or may not have been watching it second night of Shavuot on a timer. Neither here nor there. This is now recorded on YouTube. But she was stunning in it, and it's all midrash, right? It's all midrash on this idea. But this is what I was thinking about, to flash forward to a whole life. And this is the thing that you gasp at, that I won't be buried by her side. I could stop the shiur there, and that's the thing that that it just shivers down my spine to know that you're not going to be buried. And the truth is that I don't think that's where I am emotionally about my own death and who I'm buried next to. I frankly would like, as my family knows, because ethical wills are wonderful, and you should, again, if I could stop my shiur here, if I just said, please tell your families what your wishes are, don't make them guess. It's a wonderful thing to do. I would love to be buried in like the greenest burial possible, and it really doesn't matter to me where I am on this earth so long as I go back to it. That really doesn't matter to me. But I can understand from this text, from this one-liner, just what emotional weight exists in that stunning moment of, oh my God, I finally found her. I'm going to pause there on this one, not read the Devar Acher, so we can learn the other Midrashim. And if we have time, we'll read the other part of that Rashi. But I want to get to Sforno, who is 3 centuries later. It's 15th century Italy. Okay, Vayisa et kolo vayef. So he gives us a little bit more, although we don't ever really know if the hook that we're given is exactly the hook that they consider. But the same part of the text. Sforno has a completely different take, but I find it so sweet. And I'm going to tell you why I find it so sweet, or you're going to tell me why you find it so sweet, maybe. Vayisai kolo vayef. Al shelo zacha. By the way, I'll pause here for a second. Just say, some of you may notice I teach some version of this series of texts every single year on this parsha because I love this line. I just add to it or take away. I change. This is slightly different because I'm not going to just cheat and teach the exact same text, but I love it so much. Okay, so I teach some version of this every time I come across this parsha and I get to teach. So sorry, not sorry. ויצעק קולו ויבך, על שלא זכה לשאת אותו בנעוריו, והיו לו לעת כזאת בני נעורים. Had it only have been that they had gotten married, he's bereft, that they hadn't met earlier, because had they met when they were younger, they would already have children. He's sad for all the years he's missed.
When he finds out he has to wait another 7 years.
Well, yeah. Oh, no, he doesn't even know. Well, maybe according to the other Midrash, he knows that he has to wait. Yeah, wait. Joel says, well, wait until he finds he has to wait another 7 years, right? Has anyone here, I mean, I won't do a poll, but, anyone here who knows someone who's gotten married for a second time? I'll tell the story because it was told live here last week ago, Wednesday night. Steve Stein, who's the outgoing executive vice president, really the executive director, professional for the last 25 years of the Cantors Assembly. He lost his wife to disease about, I think at this point, maybe about 5 years ago. And he reunited with a childhood best friend of 50 years. And she had also lost her husband, and they are now together, he and Franny. And it's just stunning to see them together. And there's a piece of this emotion in their relationship where, not that they regret any of the life that they lived with each of their respective partners, but had they been together, they would have had children of their youth. The love that they have together is that kind of a love. And there is a regret that lives with people who find each other so late in life. And it's real, and it needs to be acknowledged. And it's right here in the text, this understanding that Yaakov saw Rachel and knew. And perhaps actually, I mean, you joked, Joel, but I think there actually is something buried in that commentary about the understanding that that Yaakov wasn't going to get as many years with Rachel as he wanted to have. There was something that he knew, even in that first embrace, like, this is so good. She is so good. There's no way I'm going to get everything that I want out of this woman and out of this relationship. I definitely feel that. Tybal, I see you holding at that digital hand.
And don't you think there's something at a meta level that talks about just the Jewish framework, the purview, that's what, I mean, and sometimes it's been the greatest weakness and the greatest strength. Like if I think about the Golda Meir quotation, which I'm not going to do now, but that there are different ways in the world one can see marriage. And this is just such a strong statement that it's about building the next generation and looking forward. And that's how you evaluate a marriage.
Yeah, I agree that it's very possible that the way that Sforno saw it in 15th century Italy was that he saw her and he worried, he wondered, he lamented that they wouldn't be able to build the family that they needed to build. And perhaps there was a little bit of that oracle as well. He saw her and he perhaps even foresaw the infertility bit, right? Maybe there was even that.
I mean, I was about to say that's what makes it so, I think, extraordinarily difficult in a Jewish world to make sure that singles, whether by choice or not by choice, feel included, that couples who would have wanted children or singles, whatever, wanted children. That's why I'm saying it's both the greatest strength and the greatest weakness. But here, this midrash is just so unadulterated that that's just how you evaluate it, not we could have had more years of companionship, or we could have more years of shepherd or whatever, but we could have had more children.
Yeah, precisely. I completely agree. And I that strikes me as probably something that was very culturally relevant in the 15th century and also is evergreen to the Jewish people, right? We never stop complaining that there aren't enough Jewish babies. And there are more sensitive and less sensitive ways of doing so. So Radak, who is between these two commentaries time-wise, the reason why I put Radak third is that Radak goes in a completely different direction, reminding us that this relationship is not only one of romance, but also a relationship of family tree, right? Because these are also cousins. No? Right? This is a family reunion also. So what Radak says is, this was a bechiyah shel simcha, because when close relatives meet after not seeing each other for so long, I love that translation here. The emotional cup runs over. It's hard to control your feelings. They cry for joy, right? They cry for joy. This bechiyah was a crying and a lifting up of a voice for joy because they were relatives. This was family. And I feel that this explanation, as unsatisfying as it might be to the romantics among us who get, goosebumps or whatever you call them in your family, when we think about all those romantic reads, it might be the truest read when you think about the repetition of and his brother and Lavan, his father's mother's brothers, like what the repetition of the family tree over and over again. And I think that there's something about that family reunion and finding one another after so much time as well. I wonder if there's something of recapturing of that spirit in contemporary times as well, as people sort of reclaim their ancestry and try to find each other again in modern times. I think that people have that, but it meant something different to them. It meant something on a deep emotional scale. It meant something profound to them. And Radak reads that as a family moment. He doesn't read it as a romantic moment. Now hold that thought and hold the emotional thoughts, and we're going to read something I've never put on the sheet before, and we're going to end with this read. I don't have time for that other Rashi. We're going to end with this read before we do benching. So this is from Ruth Rabbah. Now, almost every piece of the Tanakh has a collection of midrashim called Ex Rabbah, which is a collection of ancient midrashim, and by ancient I mean from the turn of the first millennium. Okay, and this is Ruth Rabbah. It is a commentary on the book of Ruth. Okay, very good. So we're going to be hearing about Orpah, because Orpah is a character in the book of Ruth, and so we're going to hear that Orpah makes her way into the commentary, and actually into the very beginning of this commentary. But it's not really about Orpah. It's about kisses, because up to this point, we're really focusing more on the cry than on the kiss. But I love the way that this particular text from Ruth Rabbah characterizes what kisses are and what kisses can be. So this says the following: Vatishak Orpah lachamota, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law. So this is the kiss that takes place towards the beginning of Ruth, the very, very beginning of the story. And then the commentary begins. Kol neshika shel tfilut bar mintlat. All kisses are kisses of, how would you translate it? Tfilut. Yeah. How might you translate it, Marshall? Licentiousness or? Jill says horniness. Yeah, or kisses of, like, I would say affection would be the most PG way of translating it. They're kisses of desire. Very good. Oh, Fran, you're hired. Very good. Okay. Kisses of desire, right? I think desire might be, like, even if not the most direct, probably the most appropriate one for our purposes, that also gives a read that we need. Very good. You're hired. Okay. Neshika shel gedula. This is the first that is an exception to the rule. Unshika shel prakim. Unshika shel prishut. So here are the three exceptions. The kiss of greatness, and we're going to get a biblical example of that. A kiss of absence, right, or of distance, I was going to say, but longing or distance. Yeah. Good. You're also hired for that. And then a kiss of parting. Okay. I think parting is a good translation. Shel gedu. Why do I even put the translations on if I disagree with them? Because it's fun to disagree. I like arguing with myself. That's very fun. Okay. Or with the people on the page. So I almost always win, Alan. Thank you for saying that you hope I win. So dichtiv, so we're going to get examples of each of these things. So dichtiv, v'yikach Shmuel et pach hashemen v'yitzok al rosho v'yishakehu. So this is the example of a kiss of greatness. This is from Shmuel, who took a flask of oil and poured it on his head and kissed him. So this is the kiss of anointment that takes place in Shmuel. The kiss of anointment. So you can kiss as part of anointment. First of all, this is a case where a kiss is taking place between two characters of male gender, and it is taking place in a ceremony of anointment, right? Of meshichut, basically. And that is considered not one of tfilut, right? So kisses can be kisses of greatness, right? Oh, I bestow upon you this honor. Then you've got the kiss of absence, and this is going to be the example from Shmot, which is dichtiv vayifgeshehu bahar ha'elohim vayishaklo. What is this example? He met him at the mountain of God at Horeb. Does it say he kissed him in there? No, but there's the assumption. What's happening there? Yeah, and there's an assumption that Moshe and Aaron have a moment of intimacy between brothers, intimacy in the most validating and loving sense, as they are passing basically a priestly moment between the two of them. And finally, the parting one, and this is the example of Orpah. and her mother-in-law, right? As her mother-in-law says, go back to your people, basically, right? And Ruth says that, and Orpah, original name of mother-in-law is Naomi. I was like, what's her original name? Naomi. Right, it's Mara, that's later, but Naomi. So Naomi says, go back to your people. So Orpah kisses her mother-in-law, and it's a kiss of gratitude almost, right? Because she says it's basically parting, but it's parting thanking her for allowing her to go back to her people, because she could have been obligated, as Ruth took that obligation upon herself. But Orpah, if you know the story, she goes back to her people because she is no longer really bound to her mother-in-law since her husband has passed. And Rabbi Tanhuma adds to this list, okay, adds the list of exceptions and says, even a kiss of closeness, as it is stated, right? I'm trying to find myself back in the Hebrew. Shak Yaakov l'rachem af neshika shel kurivut. Shel kurivut. What do we usually use that word for? Kurivut? What does that ring of? Karov? Krovim. What do we use that? What do you use that for? For avelut. That's the technical term that we use for avelut, for relatives that we mourn. So it harkens back. Kurivut, closeness, is also the structure by which we define the 7 categories of relatives for which we are bound in avelut and relationships. And I see this commentary of Rabbi Tanhuma as hearkening back to that Rashi and that Midrash Rabbah, in which there is that moment where he's met Rachel, and that kiss is a kiss of krivut. It's both a kiss of closeness and also an immediate kiss of understanding the obligation to, he understands that he is double obligated in krivut in a kind of odd way that we wouldn't understand in 2022, but he is double obligated. He is both relative and he is also becoming partner. I find all of these reads just spellbinding. I could read it all day long, but I think that the most important thing to understand is that we are onlookers to this story of intimacy between Yaakov and Rachel. And I hope as you look into the story and into the words that are in this story, that you find in it little snippets of ways that you see people relating to one another, both in these relational mannerisms, in the kisses and the crying out, and also in ways that we just no longer see, right? In ways that we don't express ourselves anymore, but are impassioned and bring the characters in our story to life because we hear of them crying out to one another, kissing one another, weeping on one another. And I hope this brought the characters a little more to life. So with that, I'm going to ask that we have somebody lead us in Birkat Hamazon who had bread in the room. Did somebody in the room eat of the biglim and like to lead us in a little shir hamalot in the first paragraph? Marshall is volunteering. All right, he actually ate. I'm bringing this to you so you can be heard.
Shir hamalot b'shuv Adonai et shivat Zion hayinu kecholmim az yimales chok pinu u'shonenu rina az yomaru v'goyim higdil Adonai la'asot imela higdil Adonai la'asot imanu Hayinu smechim, Shuva Adonai et shevitenu, Ka'afikim ba'negev, Ha'azorim bedima, Verina yiktzoru, Halok yelechu v'cho, Osei meshech hazara, Bo yavo verina, no say alumotav. Chavirai nevarech. Yishem alayim v'rach me'atav yalam. Birshut chavirai. Nevarech Eloheinu shechalam ishalo. Baruch Eloheinu shechalam ishalo. Baruch Leinu Shechalim Ishalov Tuvo Chayinu, Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Hazan et HaOlam Kulo B'Tuvo, B'chein B'chesed U'Vrachamim, Hu Noten Lechem L'chol Basar, Ki Le'olam Chasto, U'V'Tuvo HaGadol, Tamid lo chasar lanu v'yayechsar lanu ma'azon le'olam va'ed ba'avur shemo hagadol ku alzanu farnes lakol umetiv lakol umechin ma'azon l'chol b'riotav asher bara baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yiten Adonai Yevarech Et Amo V'Shalom.
I am going to lead us in Kaddish Rabbanan as soon as I teach us one last text because I finally found the thing that was bothering me. On page 283 in Eitz Chaim, Genesis chapter 46, verse 28. Verse 29. Vayesov Yosef Merkavto, and then Joseph received the chariot of his father with all of his people. Vayal likrat Yisrael aviv Goshna, vayira elav vayipol al tzavarav vayevk al tzavarav od. And so he fell upon his neck and he wept sometime upon his neck upon his arrival. And so that's when and it's not very clear who fell upon whose neck, just as in the previous time with Jacob and Esau. Okay, with that, we're going to do a quick Kaddish Darabanan, and then Joel will lead us in Mariv in honor of his mother's memory. We're on page 38 or some other page in your book with Kaddish. Thank you, 111. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnase v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidehon, ve'al kol Talmidehon, ve'al kol man de'askim be'oraita, di v'yatra hadin v'di v'chal atar v'atar. Yehi lehon nochon shlama rava, china v'chista v'rachamin. V'chayin arichin numzona revicha, uforkana min kadam mavuhon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim tovim malenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu v'rachamav v'yaseh shalom, alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Page 264 in Lev Shalem, we rise for the Baruch Hu, which will be said in just a moment, then we can be seated. On page 200 in the Old Sim Shalom, page 137 in the Daily Slim Shalom.
Bahuracham b'olam lo yashchit, v'yabala shiva b'lo yakol chamato. Adonai Hashem Elokeinu b'yom kareinu. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach li'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai. Umar b'yom u'mevi layla, ma'odid ben yom u'ben layla Adonai tzot. Shema wel chai v'chayim u'tamid yom ha'chayim li'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim.
Amen.
Ya'avadcha al tishel imenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohechem Emet. U'malchuto b'ratzon kiblu alehem Moshe v'nei Yisrael chanu shira. V'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. Mi chamocha b'olim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norati loto seifele, malchutcha ruvanecha b'keyam l'fnei Moshe. Ze eli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki padol et Yaakov v'golom yad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Ushmor tzeitain v'leinu l'chaim l'shalom me'atah v'yad olam. Baruch atah Adonai shomer amo Yisrael la'ad. Baruch Adonai. Ki hamalchut shelcha hi umayatim lecha v'okein l'melcha ata. Baruch atah Adonai hamelech v'chol tamid l'chol le'olam v'oed be'al kol ma'asav. Yekadav yekadash shmir rabba. Yamad Yivrachir Tevim Lich Malchut B'chaychon Yom Echon Echad Beit Yisrael B'Agalav Esman Kori V'Yimru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'Me'el Maya Yiparach Pi Shabach Pi Parvish Amin Nasevi Yitadar B'Yitla B'Yitla Shmei Kudisha B'Richu Le'olam Mikol B'Chadav Shir Tush B'Tav Nechmatzad Amiram B'Yoma V'Yimru Amen.
Amen. The whispered private Amidah for the end of Shabbat is found on page 270 in Lev Shalem. It's recited standing and in a whisper. If you haven't yet completed your own private Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're on page 279, Chatzi Kaddish.
Yekadav yekadash shmir rabba. Yamad Yivrachir Tevim Lich Malchut B'chaychon Yom Echon Echad Beit Yisrael B'Agalav Esman Kori V'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'Me'el Maya Yiparach V'Yishtabach V'Yiparav V'Yishmami Nasevi Yitadar V'Yitla V'Talal Shmei Nekudisha B'Richu Le'olam Mikol B'Chatav V'Shirata Tush B'Chatav V'Nechemata Amiram V'Yoma V'Yimru Amen.
Amen. We know Madonai Eloheinu Eloheinu Asayedenu Konaleinu.
Yekraini benehu imonochi betzara achaltzehu yachabdehu. Oriach mimasbehu v'yarehu b'shuati. Oriach mimasbehu v'yarehu b'shuati.
You turn back to page 216, second paragraph on the page at the little orange triangle.
V'takadosh Yosef Yisrael v'karazel zev yamar.
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh,
Kadosh,
Adonai Tzva'ot Melech,
Kadosh,
Haaretz
Kadosh, Adonai Tzva'ot Melech
Kvodo.
haaretz kevodo. Hatisayni ruach v'ashma acharai kol rash gadol.
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai
kivod Adonai
Mimkomo.
mimkomo. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yitchu b'Adonai Eliah ki v'Adonai tzur olamim yidchu b'chaydesh mechachi v'safta d'shecha Adonai Adonai chavei saman tzikoi dil Torah v'yadir
Page 280, Kaddish Shalem.
Yikadav yikadash mirabah
Amen.
Yomad yivrach v'tei v'yom nichmachotei v'chaychon v'yom echon v'chaylecho beit Yisrael b'agalav v'zman kari v'yimru Amen Yehesh mirabah mevorach Le'olam u'me'om maya Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yishmam v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitlev v'talal shmei l'kudisha V'yichu le'olam v'kol b'chatav v'shirata tush b'chatav v'nechamata damiram b'yomah v'yimru Amen
Amen.
Titkabel salatan v'batan d'chol Yisrael kadam avoni v'shmai v'yimru Amen
Amen.
Yehesh shalom rabba min shemai v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru Amen
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru Amen
Amen. 281.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai imloch li'olam va'ed Ne'emar v'ya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz V'yom ha'hu Adonai echad u'shmo echad
Mourner's Kaddish is on page 282.
Yitgadal v'yikadash merabah
Amen.
V'yamad divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei V'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael B'gala v'zman kariv v'yimru Amen Yehesh me rabba mevorach le'olam u'me'al maya Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'richud La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'oma v'yimru Amen Yehi shlama rabba min shemai v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen Baruch Yeh.
Their mother's memory continue to be for a blessing. May you continue to find happy occasions to remember her. People that beat and Scrabble. Yeah, that would be like actually a nice life blessing. May you continue to find people that beat and Scrabble. Right? Good, like 90th birthday blessing. In just a moment, we'll turn down the lights here in Pilch Hall and we'll do Havdalah together. The daily Minyan meets tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We continue to meet at 4:30 in the afternoons. It is a tough time of the year to get Minyan. Please come if you can come. There will be one local Shiva Minyan this week. It'll be Wednesday evening for the mother of Michael Waterstone. It will be localish in Santa Monica. So please help to make that. The announcement for with the specific details should come out hopefully this evening or early tomorrow. Did someone hit the, oh, yeah, would you mind?
Announce, those of you who didn't have enough bagels tonight, tomorrow morning for Yor said I'm going to be bringing bagels and lox.
Oh, Joel says they're bagels and lox. He also said that he'll be sponsoring a full bar. Oh, no, just kidding. Just kidding. Tyball's gonna fly in for it. Just kidding. Okay. I had to make a Joel style joke.
Nah, I don't drink.
Oh, never mind.
Chocolate and cheese, sure.
Chocolate and cheese. I'm with you, Tyball. That's also my vice is. Okay. Yeah, nine, 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 nine. Yeah, nine, 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 nine. Hi, nine, 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 nine. Hi, nine, 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 oh. Hi, nine, 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 nine. Hi, nine, nine, nine. Hine el Yeshuati, Eftach v'lo echad, Ki ozi v'zimrat yad, Adonai v'yihi li lishua, Ushaptamayim b'sason, V'maynei Yeshua, L'Adonai Yeshua, Allah v'chavir chatecha selah, Adonai Tzevaot Imanu Niskav Lainu Elohei Yaakov Selah Adonai Tzevaot Asher Adam Botei Hachbach Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Yaneinu Yom Koreinu LaYehudim HaTorah V'simcha v'sason v'ikar Kein tihye lanu Kos Yeshu hotesa Uv'shem Adonai hekra Hainanai Adonai nai nai Hainanai Adonai nai nai Savri Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haolam Pori Peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei minei besamim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei ha'esh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamavdil ben kodesh lecho ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amin ben yom hashvi l'sheshet yemei hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai Hamavdil ben kodesh lecho Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. Eliyahu hanavi, Eliyahu hatishvi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagilati, B'meira v'yameinu, Yahava Eleinu, Yimashiach ben David, Yimashiach ben David. Wishing everybody a good and healthy week ahead, and good luck with your leftovers, whatever they may be. Leftovers? What? Stop it. Tell me. That cannot be. I have so many. Oh, I'll bring mine to your house because we have so many. It's unreasonable. Oh. Oh, it's at our house. It's like an absurd. Well, but not everybody in my family is vegetarian, so there's an absurd amount of turkey also in my house because my mom saw fit to send that back with us too from their house. So, and I'm not eating it. So Daniel just has like all this turkey.
Look forward to next time.
So much.
Your grandpa and my dad.
Yeah.
Went to seminary together.
Right.
And he moved to
Right. So, no.
Beautiful, beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
You know, they were separated by 3,000 miles, you know, but we're very close. In fact, I remember when I was going to go to law school at UCLA, or in Los Angeles.
In Brooklyn. Yeah, I know the law. Yeah.
Look up our friends. Certificates. I lived in Los Angeles. First reaction, oh, that's exciting. Meeting my parents' friends.
Great week.
Go ahead. Go ahead. The winner of the
First of all, Mel was a third year law student, and I was about to be a first year law student. And so, at UCLA, and so I already had a connection from law school, which I wasn't expecting. And of course, you know, her mom is just an amazing person. As you may know.
I agree.
And we really hit it off. And Lucy, also little sweetheart. So it was just fantastic. So even against my better judgment, I wanted to see my parents.
It's gotta go with something, like, yeah. Yeah, I'll tell him, I'll tell him that, although I can't send him yet, because we still have.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a service, like, there's like a pan and a wrap potato. I know, the leftover game in our house is not, because the kids won't eat the leftovers.
So look at you, Dad.
I will. A lot of. All right, good night. Good talking to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Darling, I'm gonna use the bathroom, okay?
Hola, hola Kelvin.
Algo había perdido, güey, entonces estaba siguiendo mi clima nada más. Entonces yo corrí para el santuario y ya te iba a desbaratar el Zoom ya. Ahí estás, güey. Soltó, güey. parece cae viendo por la cámara el güey. Algo se le presentaba el güey y quería acabar, ¿no? Pero ¿por qué no dijo del hubiera dicho del Pils, ¿no?